Welcome back, everybody, to Been There, Watch That. Myself, Justin, Joe, and Dave, your favorite TV and movie reviewers. We're at BeenThereWatchThat.com if you want to get caught up on previous reviews we've done. Joe maintains that website, does a great job, and does a little blurb as to what each of us gave it as a rating. We use a popcorn rating system from Burt Popcorn for the real stinkers all the way up to Mop Bucket, which is our local Roby Theater's very large popcorn you can get there. And we're on social media at Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube at BTWT Pod for Been There, Watch That. And this week, it's my pick. I asked the guys before we started if anybody wanted to kick me or punch me or anything for making them watch this, but I could have them all wrong. Maybe they love this one. We'll see. This is Sound of Metal, 2019 movie. It's an Amazon Prime original. Take it away.
Amazon Prime original. That's impressive, and I knew that going in, but
it's Amazon original.
Right. It still amazes me that like Amazon, Netflix, and a couple others are making their own movies.
Yeah, making their own content. Yeah.
I mean, it's crazy.
I kind of looked around a little bit just to see if it was available elsewhere. I didn't see it available to like rent on YouTube or anything. It's pretty much exclusive on there.
Yes, it's an Amazon original. They're really keeping it close to the vest, where you have to, they're the only place to get it.
Mm-hmm. And it's weird because I saw a lot of advertisements on this on Amazon, but I didn't really pay attention to it because I didn't think I'd be interested in it as it looks rock and roll. I thought The Sound of Metal meant that it was about a rock and roll drummer, like a documentary type deal.
Right.
Had no idea about the movie itself.
Yeah, I watched it with my dad, and he was like, "Who's this about?" Because he thought it was like a true story.
That's what I was thinking. I thought this guy was a real rock drummer, and they were doing a documentary on him.
Yeah, because I at one point I thought it might have been just a biopic about someone, or one that's based on a true story kind of deals, and it's not. It's purely fiction, but boy, it almost leads you to believe that there's. I guarantee that there's some truth to it. I mean, that is just part of it being a movie, but it almost leads you down that path of being a biopic.
This had to have happened to somebody at some point.
Yeah. It gives that vibe.
Yeah. And we had a pretty cool bonus episode that Joe put together where we watched Grandma and Ginga, the movie, which I thought was fun and light and short. And this is kind of all the opposites. This is longer, this is drawn out a little bit, and this is not a happy movie necessarily.
Yeah, but, just that little kick in the pants to come off of such an entertaining movie.
The show goes up and down. It's a roller coaster ride with some of these picks. Want a little synopsis, Joe? Or sorry, Dave?
It's okay. I'm just happy to throw this out there that all my picks have been stellar.
Here we go.
I'm only hitting home runs, boys. Only home runs.
I don't even know if I want to put forth the energy today to argue with you, Dave.
Oh, it's because you can't argue with that. That is a 5-star fact. Bam. Bam.
Yeah, based on Wikipedia, and you know how true Wikipedia is.
Oh, come on now. Be nice, Joe.
Okay. It's on the internet, so it has to be true. So which way do you want me to go, Dave?
Yeah. All right, fill us in with a synopsis of The Sound of Metal.
Okay, yeah, you have five-star picks about as well as Howard the Duck's a 3-star pick. How's that? Okay, so
place your bets now. How many episodes will we go with Howard the Duck still being?
I think Howard the Duck and Mad Max has just kind of become a staple of our show.
Listen, I don't hold that against both of you very much at all.
So, the synopsis is: a heavy metal drummer's life is thrown into a free fall when he begins to lose his hearing.
All right, yeah, that's definitely a quick synopsis.
That was the fastest, shortest synopsis ever.
Well, I found the short version online. Let me read the long one. Keeping at bay his inner demons by devoting himself to art, metal drummer Ruben has been living for the moment for the past 4 years. Then, while on tour with his lead singer/girlfriend Lou, Ruben realizes that his hearing is rapidly deteriorating. As his sudden hearing loss turns his world upside down, the numbing fear paired with angry denial take over. Ruben reluctantly accepts to join a small deaf community overseen by Joe, a compassionate Vietnam War veteran. Now, Ruben needs to find some solid ground, understand that being deaf is not a handicap and that deafness isn't something to fix. But is Ruben willing to accept his new life and learn how to be deaf?
Right. They mentioned that Vietnam veteran who we find out he went deaf because he was a bomb dropped kind of close to him until he blew his hearing out.
Yeah.
I liked him in the movie though. I thought he was like such a gruff like character, but he was
Kind
a
of
big recovery guy, and he's running this basically a place for former drug addicts that are also deaf. He's got this
Mhm.
little community going, but Ruben shows up and he's kind of hesitant to get involved, and because he pretty recently is going from totally being fine to now he's got to be in this deaf community doing sign language. And,
yeah, it's kind of that tough love military. Let me break you down before I can rebuild you kind of take.
Well, I thought it was interesting because Ruben, suddenly going deaf, and then also being an addict.
Yes.
Those are two. Because I kept waiting, I was trepidatious.
Yeah.
It kind of set that theme of, hey, he's going to roll right back into using
Yeah.
because it's such a blow to your psyche and to your mind and to your well-being to just go from hearing, and especially when your life is a rock band and hearing's crucial.
Yeah.
And that they showed that with the one show where he couldn't hear and he was just all over the place, and she knew something was wrong, and and then I was just like, oh, he's going to go back into this second wave of using again, and
Right.
that's what the movie's going to be about. And man, if it didn't take a turn and go the exact opposite direction.
Yeah. So do we want to talk about real quick the cast?
Yeah, please.
Okay. So the key people we're talking about here, Riz Ahmed plays Ruben, and he's been in Rogue One, a Star Wars story. Olivia Cook plays Lou, and Olivia's also been in Ready Player One. Lauren Ridloff plays Diane, and she's made appearances in The Walking Dead. Michael Toe was a pharmacist, and he plays on the Blacklist. And Paul Racy plays Joe, the founder of the Deaf Rehab Facility. So the gentleman we was just talking about, the veteran that is running this. How do you guys want to? The community, is that how we want to describe it?
I would say community. I almost think clinic is the word, but it's not like medical.
almost
It's
like a rehab sort of.
Yeah.
rehab home, I guess, but it's more of a community, I guess.
Yeah. And here's something I found really interesting about the actor that plays Joe, Mr. Paul Racy, is he's not deaf in real life.
Right.
But how he knows sign language so well is both his parents were actually deaf.
Right. He was a child that grew up in a
Interesting.
deaf
Yeah.
parents.
Yeah. So he's actually a prominent figure in the deaf community as a coda, a child of deaf adults, and a member of Hands of Doom, a band that performs in American Sign Language, which I didn't even know that was a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, you get a peek behind the curtain of what a deaf community is like. I mean, the way, obviously, people aren't talking; they're all interacting in a different way than a lot of like hitting the table and
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
big gestures, and yeah, it's interesting in that way. Just seeing how people try to live a normal life.
And
that
that's
way.
all portrayed very accurately. We had a
Mhm.
deaf community center here, and it's amazing how much noise they make
Right.
when communicating. For someone that's not deaf, but I did learned a little bit of sign language and participated in some of their events. It's amazing how the vibrations. So they'll smack the table to get your attention, just because the
You can feel
vibrations
it, yeah.
reverberate around
Mhm.
the table,
Yeah.
and that's how they get each other's attention. So a lot of smacking of the tables and whatever's near them, a lot of loud noises just because the vibrations, you can feel them.
Right. Yeah. And you get a lot. Of course, it's no secret. I'm a tech nerd. So, and from my side of things, there's a lot of technology going on in this movie
Oh yeah.
that you don't realize. And some of the things I've known about,
Mm-hmm.
but I've never seen firsthand, like the telephone. Whenever he was talking into the telephone,
Yeah, the voice to text.
yeah, I used to work with a lady that was deaf,
Mm-hmm.
and she didn't have a phone at her desk. Why would she? But she will, after talking with her, and she was one of those, she read lips.
Yeah.
And like I worked with her for several years, and like it was almost a year working with her before I realized she was deaf.
Yeah.
And the only reason I found out was I walked into the office and I was standing behind her and I hollered at her and one of the coworkers said, "She can't hear you, she's deaf." What? I mean,
Yeah.
completely oblivious. But talking to her since, she has one of those phones at home
Yeah.
where it does all the voice to text, and she has issues with sometimes calling some of these companies for support or
Yeah,
whatever
yeah.
that they don't understand to either slow down or give it a second to, because they think
To load, yeah.
there's that little delay, so they think that she's not answering, and in reality she's waiting for it to pop up the rest of the sentence or whatever to respond with.
Mm-hmm.
So then she has to explain to them. Some people get it, some people don't. That she's deaf. It's showing up on the screen, so I actually see that screen firsthand was pretty neat from my standpoint. And then when Joe and Ruben sit down there and their first conversation is, you see that interaction right off. Joe speaks, and Ruben's sitting there waiting for it to come up on the screen. So then there's that little conversation delay.
Yeah. Another technology part of it was that cochlear implant device. Which
Yes.
is crazy because they're showing the scene where he goes in for the surgery and they've got his head cut open pretty much.
Yeah.
So there's a big scar on his head afterward where they had, inserted something somewhere in the ear canal and then that patches or that heals all up, and then you have maybe it's like a radio transmitter or something you wear on your head.
Right.
But yeah, in the movie they obviously portray it as it's nowhere near getting your hearing back. It's just kind of like she says it's a trick almost. It tricks your brain into thinking you're hearing stuff.
Yeah.
But it sounds like
it's
crap pretty much.
Yeah, it's
Broken
not.
radio.
It's not as good as what God gave you, but it's better than nothing. It's about the best what man can do. And
Right.
actually, there's a gentleman on TikTok, and I'm gonna pull him up here real quick.
But then the older guy, Joe, who runs the center, he's no fan of it. He pretty much tells them to leave the community because, in their view, the way to go is to learn how to sign and learn how to become part of the deaf community, not to go get some surgery and try to use
Yeah.
it.
Well, that's what he talked about. They didn't view it as a handicap that
Right.
needed fixed.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And I was kind of torn. I understand he's trying to get back to his life with, Lou and drumming, and to do that he needed to be able to hear. He thought so. He was, that he was singular on his mission of, hey, this is temporary. I'm headed towards this.
Mhm.
I got the resources to gather up this much money.
Sold his RV and everything.
Yeah, and I'm going to get my RV back, and
Yeah.
we're going to travel and do our shows, and that's just what life's going to be. And that was his whole,
Mm-hmm.
that was the pivotal point of the movie. How does he adapt, or how does he refuse to adapt to his situation, and what will his life be from here on out?
Yeah, and it's interesting because it kind of focuses on, if you really stop to think about it, it kind of focuses on Joe and Ruben very heavily, but it doesn't.
Oh yeah,
And you see both sides of the fence. Ruben's like, hey, we need to get this fixed. I need to get back on the road. I need to get back to life as normal.
yeah,
And Joe's right there saying, look, life is no longer, the normal you knew no longer exists.
right, it's gone.
This is, and I hate to use this because people have used it so much with COVID, it's the new normal.
Oh yeah.
This is your new normal.
Well, I mean, in this sense, it's true though.
Yeah.
And Joe knew that, and as his mentor was trying so hard to coach him.
Yeah.
And I know one of you mentioned before, that guy did such a good job as Joe. He sold the movie, in my opinion.
Yeah, he's
That means
totally believable as a guy that
Yeah.
his whole life is about creating this community for
Yeah.
the
Well,
deaf
and
the
as
deaf
a
addicts.
former addict, he
Yeah.
he looks like he's he's kind of been road wet and put up hard, road hard, put up wet.
Right.
He looks kind of wrinkled. He talks gravelly.
Of course, I'm sure PTSD played a big role in that.
Oh yeah. I just mean, he's one of those guys that looks the part.
Yeah. He's seen a lot of things, and he's
Yep.
been down a lot of roads, so he's a wealth of information sitting right there
Yeah.
in front of him.
And I liked it when he came up to his room. He's like, all right, car keys, phone, You know, this is
Yeah.
it.
Yeah,
There's no
other, yeah.
negotiation. There's no anything.
Right.
This
Yeah.
is the
When
deal.
you're
if
here,
you're here.
yeah, you're cut off from the outside world.
Okay,
It's-
now I've got a question. Speaking about the bedroom,
Yeah.
so when Joe and Ruben walk in there, there's another gentleman in there,
Right.
And that guy whips out a walking stick. Was that guy blind as well as deaf?
Yes. Yeah,
Okay.
that was a walking stick for a blind person.
But that's what I thought. But yet he looked at Ruben and interacted with Ruben.
Well, I don't think he was like
fully
blind.
Okay.
He just needed help distinguishing depth.
Okay, because that's what I was like. Wait a minute, time out. This gentleman's blind and deaf, but if he's blind, then how did he just look at Ruben and interact
Yeah.
with Ruben?
Yeah.
Or maybe he's looking in the general direction, but not really actually. Just kind of like, oh hey,
Okay.
yeah, I don't know.
Interesting.
So that was one thing that caught me, and another thing that just kind of irritated me from Go is the second Ruben finds out he's deaf. Why wasn't he yelling at the top of his lungs, trying to have a conversation with someone? You know,
Like-
Joe sitting talking with a normal voice because he's done it for decades.
Yeah.
Ruben, hours.
It doesn't
hours in-
always work that way though.
Well, I just found it weird, as the second Ruben is deaf, he's talking the normal tone like we are. He's not shouting,
Mm-hmm.
because that's where I've seen. And of course, it's a lot of older people. As their hearing loss goes, they talk louder. And here's Ruben, an hour into his hearing loss, and he's still having a normal tone. It's like he just picked it up automatic. I found that very weird.
Well, I think older people, like I'm going to use my mom for instance.
Okay.
She's losing some of her hearing, so she talks louder because she's losing her hearing, but she hasn't lost it. You see what I mean? So
Yes.
she still can hear. She
Right.
just doesn't hear as well as she used to. So therefore, she talks louder.
Right.
But I think when you lose it all together, you have no bearing. So therefore, talking normal is just normal
Okay.
Yes,
because it doesn't seem like the volume's on low. There's just no volume.
my dad and I were talking about that a little bit. Like someone who was born deaf, they can never speak clearly, but
Right.
Ruben and Joe both are able to speak totally normally. I guess just once you have it, you don't like lose that ability to speak.
Yeah, once
even-
you have the dialect down, you can continue. And so, and from where I've been around some of the ASL community, the deaf community there, some of them can speak very well if they, but it's usually based on where they can, how much they practice.
Mhm.
A lot of times they don't care because they're using their hands to sign.
Yeah.
And that's one thing I don't understand
Mm-hmm.
is at one point, they're all sitting around the table learning sign language, and the teacher looks at Ruben and puts a lock on his, tells him to lock his mouth,
Yeah,
basically to
sign
stop
language
talking.
only,
Yeah.
Mhm.
Because
that's
nobody
one thing-
could understand him and hear him, so it didn't matter.
Well, that's one thing I don't understand is there some people that can speak just still choose not to. For example, the very successful and highly actor Marty Matlin.
Mm-hmm.
She's been in a lot of stuff, and she's deaf.
Yeah.
And there's certain times where she chooses to speak, and there's sometimes she chooses to sign, even just in a discussion with normal people. I don't understand.
That was a learning tool, and I've seen this just because of the Deaf Resource Center we had.
Okay.
The more you try to talk, the less you're going to learn to sign, and he needed to learn how to sign. So therefore, stop talking and just use sign language. the whole
Okay.
way.
Take that crutch away. And
Yeah,
just
because
focus
otherwise,
on the one thing.
it's kind of like trying to pretend you're blind, and then you keep looking with one eye. You just make it harder to learn.
Okay.
So
But that's just what I
it's
found.
immerse yourself in it because that's the new standard.
Okay, because that's why I just found it strange. I mean, even with Marley Matlin, I've seen a lot of her work, and
Yeah.
there's certain scenes in the shows where she'll talk, and then there's sometimes she'll sign or have her interpreter, speak for her, and I just find it weird, and that's just because I'm lack of education on my part.
Yeah, no, it's fine. And a lot of people don't understand that, but it's like, if you go into Spanish class in high school and you're learning Spanish, a lot of times they'll say Spanish only here.
Yeah.
And if you don't know how to say it, you got to learn how to say it because
Right.
if you keep going back to English, it's
Yeah.
just going to make it harder for you to learn.
Right, and that may play a part on where Joe says, "Give me your keys, give me your wallet."
Oh yeah.
You're going in head first into this, and we're going full on. We're not going to be distracted by anything. It's this and this alone, and then we'll deal with the outside world.
Yeah.
Yeah, just talking about how committed is he? Is he gonna try to go back to live some sort of normal hearing life, or is he gonna immerse in the sign language and stuff? When he was there, it seemed like he was making progress. I mean, it kind of showed that some time passing and him learning some sign language, but then he gets the implant, then he's like kind of hearing again, and then the very end of the movie they leave it kind of open because he takes them off. We don't know if that's just he took the little hearing device off and then he's not going to use it anymore, or he's going to use it here and there, or it kind of leaves it open as to whether he's going to jump in all in and embrace this, or if he's still going to try to live a life where he's...
I watched that 5-second clip at the end twice.
Mhm.
I did too, because I thought I missed something.
I did too. I was like, man, did he say something, or did I miss something he was looking at, or
Yeah.
what did I miss here? And then because I had the same thoughts, Justin, I was just like, man, did he just say, you know what, all right, I'm in, 100% in, or... Yeah, and the hard part is, I think once you've had your hearing, it's the age-old thing of, would you want some of it back occasionally just to kind of revel in it, like hearing birds sing. It'd be nice to pop them on and listen to the bell toll, birds sing, water flow, just to hear that. If you have known it, but if you
Right.
didn't know it, it wouldn't matter.
Right.
But man, it'd be. I was thinking about that as as we're kicking around ideas for the review here. Man, how tough would that be?
Well, and I think this is, like I said, this is strictly ignorance on my part. I think the cochlear thing, it's a great tool, but I think it is very intensive. It's a lot of processing power on
Harsh.
your part.
Yeah.
And here's what I'm basing it on. On TikTok, there's a gentleman named TJ. His account is at cargo_shorts_dad. And he has a daughter who was born deaf, and she has a cochlear implant. And then in the videos, a lot of them he talks about she'll take it off and have a hearing break.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering if that has something to do with it, where it's just so in
because they
so
portrayed he's kind of walking around. I guess he's in like London or something because he went to go visit his
Yeah.
ex or whatever. And just the sound of like the cars, and it just sounds really harsh and kind of something maybe you wouldn't want to have to listen to all day. But
kind of too much to process.
Yeah.
And that's where I've heard with just people with hearing aids have issues, like if they get in a big room with a bunch of people, they just hear noise.
Yeah, and and I wonder if after he went to that party, her dad's party, and he was trying to decipher all the different and distinguish, all the different sounds, if he was just like, all right, it's too much.
Yeah.
that one girl was just trying to ask him, hi, how are you? And he couldn't like understand what she was saying because there was so
too
much
much
background noise
Yeah.
of other people at the party. And then the father and the daughter were playing the piano, and they slowly transitioned into what it sounded like for him. Like
Yeah.
at first it starts out, it sounds totally nice piano song, and then it kind of zooms in on him and shows him what he's hearing, and it's not
Yeah.
up to, it's
Well,
not high quality
Yeah,
audio.
when they first started with the father and daughter playing music, I thought, where are we going with this? Who cares? Let's move on with the story. And then when they flipped it over to what he's hearing, I was like, this makes sense now.
Yeah.
Because at first I was like, who cares? Move it along.
Yeah.
But then when they flipped the
Yeah.
switch, I was like, okay, now I understand why they went this route.
Yeah, it was well put together, for all the challenges you have of making a film that involves both hearing and deaf. I thought the transitions through his story was done well.
Yeah, and I liked...
I didn't lose interest in it and say, hey, I knew I was coming.
Right. And from the beginning, you could tell, like within the first 10 seconds of the film, that they tweaked the audio.
Yeah.
That there's a small hum or
A buzz feed.
Yeah, you almost start losing your hearing as the story goes along with Ruben, and at one point they're strictly just signing, and there's captions at the bottom of the
Yep.
screen. And I actually found when they released the movie to kind of like the previews,
Right.
they had viewing parties where the entire movie was deaf.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they turned the caption on for the entire movie.
Nice.
And then when they brought it to Amazon, they turned the audio back on, and and showed captions during the deaf parts, but when they did the preview parties, they left the captions on. Oh no, they left the audio on, but they made the captions on the entire movie.
Yeah.
To give you an idea of a better understanding of what the deaf community deals with.
Being an Amazon movie, I don't know. Is it the same? Like, do we know a budget and all that jazz? I know it was made in 4 weeks.
I looked
4 weeks or
up
4 months.
I looked up the budget. And I could not find a budget for it, but I did see where it made over 300,000 in revenue.
Oh wow!
So I don't know what the budget was.
I mean, made 300,000.
Yes,
That's not huge.
but we don't know what the budget was, and that's just estimated. So, it's one of those things with Amazon. It's a constant money maker because that's the only place to get it. Like,
Yeah.
they just made money off of all three of us. One thing I did find interesting is during the scenes where Reuben was struggling to reconcile his hearing loss, Riz Ahmed actually wore auditory blockers deep inside his ear canal that emitted just white noise.
Yeah, isn't that crazy?
Yes.
He spent 7 months learning ASL.
Yeah.
He learned how to play the drums.
Yes.
And then I thought it was neat. They also did mics that they put in their mouths. And I remember the scene where he's in his RV brushing his teeth, and then he stops because he realizes he can't hear. And he kind of pops his jaw a little bit, and you hear it from inside of his head.
Really?
And it's pretty neat technology so that you could kind of hear that aspect.
Yeah, when they go to some of those scenes where, like you said, he's in the shower and it is so like muffled.
Yeah.
You're just
Yeah.
like, oh man, you could barely hear anything.
Yeah, you almost
at that
want to
point.
pop your own ear because you think because it messes with you. I'm sitting there, when he was sitting there trying to pop his ears, it's like
There was
I
like
could be doing this myself because
Yeah.
it's like messing with because your brain tricks you going. Okay, maybe I'm having.
I thought my
hearing
ear was
troubles.
ringing at one point.
Because you could hear it. Yeah, me
Yeah.
too.
I thought I was getting. I was like,
Now, they shot this entire project in 4 weeks, and they only got 2 takes for each scene. And it says they worked with a limited budget, but it doesn't say how much it is.
2 takes for each scene. Okay.
Now the audio booth that Ruben had his test in, I've actually been in one of those.
Yeah.
Whenever I was a kid, I had a lot of hearing issues, and what he was doing was different than what I did. But those hearing booths are really interesting. It's basically a soundproof booth that only you can hear coming in. And then what I found interesting was the doctor actually put the paper in front of his mouth so Ruben couldn't read his lips. I was like, oh, that's just the simplest thing that I would have never given a thought of. I'd have just laid the paper on the desk and started communicating
Talking,
with
yeah.
But it's
asking him
that's good.
to repeat back the words, and he was like not even close on half of them.
No.
Yeah.
He would say a word, and then Ruben would say it back totally wrong. Like, yeah.
Yeah, it was either wrong or he just sat there. It was.
I thought a kind of cool scene. Remember that part where he and the boys being kind of disruptive at some sort of little thing at their school, and he goes outside with them, and he's on the slide, and
Starts drumming.
the kid at the top beats on the slide a couple times, and then I think it was kind of first time Ruben realized I can still kind of sense just through the vibrations, the drumming, so they kind of drum back and forth and have a little fun with it.
That's interesting. I took it differently. I kind of felt that it was the first time he realized he could be a mentor or a role model. You know what I mean? He offered to take the kid outside who was bored or just wasn't engaged.
Yeah.
He's like, hey, I can be an adult here and help this kid and help the whole class out.
Yeah.
And he took him outside, and then he starts drumming for him to kind of keep him entertained.
And they did that little drumming class after that.
Yeah, that's what I mean. So I kind of felt like he kind of found
Some
purpose.
You
with
see,
that group.
I kind of thought it was both because I first thought, well, like you, Dave. I first thought was okay. He sees this boy that has literally wants to do anything else but what the task at hand. So he's going to try to mentor him or a little one-on-one. And then when he started beating on the drum, I was like, then that's where I was like, Justin goes. He figures it out.
Yeah.
Like he realizes that life didn't end when his hearing when his hearing stopped.
Well,
That he can still be a drummer. This is kind of his aha moment. It's like,
yeah.
oh, so we can get back to.
Yeah. And I think that was his personal battle. And I went back to his mentorship with Joe, that what's his new life going to be? Because if he doesn't have hearing, he can't drum. And if he can't drum, what's he do?
Right.
You know, Lou has already flown back to Paris and, you know, kind of immersed in her life there, and he has nowhere to go. He doesn't have a road to travel. He doesn't have purpose in life. So that's
Yeah.
kind of why I went that direction, because I was like, okay, he's found purpose, and here's an alternative route. You know, and then Joe sits down, talks to him, and says, hey, here's some opportunity for you. You know, because
Offers them a job. Basically.
yeah, basically a job and
Working in the community.
yeah, play a part in the community there, because you know, as he said, people have really taken to him.
Yeah.
So that I kind of thought that's why, you know, there was that turning point.
Now the scene where he goes back in the classroom and has the drumsticks and the buckets
Yep.
for everybody. Everybody's reactions in there. That was none of that was scripted. That was all just raw, unscripted.
Yeah, on the fly improv. Yeah. Well, they had you know, 4 weeks, and they did it all in 3 parts so that it would be authentic. You know, he and Joe were together in the first part. They were apart in the second part, and then they came back in the third part, and they didn't see each other during that whole second part to kind of have that authentic reaction to getting to know each other again. I thought that was pretty smart, because a lot of movies don't go in succession anymore, I guess.
Kind of impressed that you would take that much time to learn sign language. Like, you could do a lot of other movies and not have to put in as much work, but he must have liked the challenge of it or
Yeah,
something
I
to
mean,
do this.
It is nice knowing ASL.
Yeah.
I mean, back when we had the Deaf Resource Center here in our building, it was nice being able to, you know, communicate without talking. You know, and I still do it with my kids. You know, they know what yes, no means right away. Thank you, welcome, you know, please. They
Yeah.
know all those.
Yeah.
And Joe, your daughter will know.
Yes, she's came home and taught us a few of them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she came busting through the house one evening and goes, "Daddy, I'm angry."
Yeah. The daycare teaches sign language because for toddlers, they don't learn to verbally speak first. They can learn sign language first.
So Sadie's came home and taught us a few things.
Oh yeah,
and,
more drink.
yeah. My
Here,
sister's
teach her
daughter.
this one. Bull. Yeah, that's always a good one to know.
My sister's daughter, the daycare she goes to in Parkersburg, they teach ASL as well.
Yeah.
And just like I said, she was doing sign language before she could
Yeah.
even speak.
A lot of kids can do sign language way before they can verbalize. So
Yeah.
And ASL, just so everybody knows, American Sign Language, it's the official sign language for the deaf community, because there are several other types of sign language, but ASL is like the standard. Yeah, so that everybody's the same across the board, same words, and they have really nice binder books that you can learn ASL on. And one of the biggest things, which I don't know if you guys noticed this, but I noticed just because I've learned it and seen it, sign language isn't exact like you would write down words or you would think words or you'd speak words.
Yeah, it's very different.
Like his name, Ruben, was wide I with an R,
Yeah.
you know. And usually someone's name would be just a short, quick symbol of whatever they are. Like, you know, Justin would be a J, but, you know, it might be, you know,
Yeah.
Running Justin.
Yeah.
If there's more than one Justin around.
Yeah, that's like the
Because
general-
because you and actually Joe and Justin, you both would be a J. You know, I know nobody can see us, but I'm doing the J symbol. So J. So it'd be like Justin would be J Runner, and Joe might be Joe Typer.
Yeah.
So everybody, and he was, you know, Reuben with wide eyes.
Yeah.
Because he had big brown eyes.
Yeah, that's like, and I picked up on that watching the gentleman's TikToks I was talking about a minute ago, TJ's TikTok videos.
Yeah.
One of the videos was about his daughter's sign name, and it's Kylie with the K, and they said well, how did she get her own sign name? And he said it's K for Kylie.
Yeah.
And the swirl was she had curly hair.
Yeah. It could be whatever. You know, the group generally just kind of figures it out.
Yeah.
And then that's your sign language name.
Yeah, and so that was her sign name is K, with the swirl for Kylie.
Yeah. So it's interesting how that works, but that's how it really is. And, you know, and in sign language, you might say, like, my favorite color is red. You wouldn't say all that. You would just say favorite red.
Yeah.
You know, favorite red lips.
Uh,
So you don't have all the fluff.
yeah.
Context is a big thing, I guess.
A couple of buddies and I went to West Virginia Power game. It had been 2 years ago because there was no baseball last year. And the night we went, it just so happened to be ASL night,
Right.
and it was so eye opening to see how everything was going on. And I caught myself because they had signers
Mhm.
standing on the dugouts, strike, hit,
Yep.
ball, whatever. And I literally caught myself watching the signer more than I
Mhm.
was the game. I was just so intrigued and interested on seeing how it all worked. And it's
Yeah.
just one of those things that you take it for granted and you don't realize what just little nuances that
Yeah.
you miss that you don't even realize. I mean, something simple as strikes and balls in a baseball game. It's something simple like that you don't realize
Yep.
that you take advantage of.
Oh yeah. As humans, we multitask. Our brain is wired to multitask. So a lot of things, like in a baseball game, you'll talk to whoever you're with, and you'll eat, and you'll check your phone, and you'll listen to what happens. You'll listen for the crack of a bat.
Yeah.
So you may not even watch a pitcher throw a pitch because you'll wait and you hear the crack of the bat to know if there's a hit or not.
Yeah.
Or I'll find myself a lot of times, the soccer game, you hear a roar of a crowd, and then you look and you're like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
good play, somebody scored a goal.
Yeah. Yeah, you kind of get preoccupied on something else until
Yeah.
you hear something, and then you're going,
Yeah.
where?
Yeah, what happened? So,
Yeah.
So it's interesting how that plays out. But this movie, I thought, did an outstanding job for such. And I don't know what the budget is, but it obviously was limited
Right.
with only doing 4 weeks of shooting and doing two
Two
takes
takes,
for
yeah.
each scene. I thought they hit home runs. I mean, this is really and Ruben. What was the actor's name?
Riz Ahmed.
Yeah, he just was perfect. He looked gritty
Tortured
enough,
soul a little
scrappy
bit.
enough.
Yeah.
Kind of. Yeah, he played the part very well, and I don't know that I've seen him in other movies. What all did he do?
He hasn't been in a lot. He was in one of the notable ones is Rogue One, a Star Wars story.
Oh yeah, I'm not familiar with those. So
You guys remember the teacher that he was working in her classroom? She was a Miss Deaf America 2000 to 2002. Had no idea. There was a Miss America
Yeah, I didn't
Deaf
either.
version. Yeah.
That is interesting.
Yeah.
yeah,
But yeah, he was convincing as an actual drummer in a metal band. He's had the look and kind of could tell he'd been through some stuff. The way he portrayed it. And I was like you, Dave. I was just waiting for something really bad to happen, and
yeah.
it didn't. It kind of.
I'm still, now that we're talking about, I still can't believe he didn't dip back into drugs.
Mm-hmm. He was 4 years sober at that point in the movie when he lost his hearing.
And I found it interesting. The first thing Joe called him out on was like, "Do you use drugs?"
Yeah, oh yeah.
And I first thought was, okay, why is Joe asking him that? Because maybe Joe knows something that a lot of people don't, like certain drugs that they found
Yeah.
that cause a hearing loss. So I thought, okay, maybe he's asking that because maybe there's some association with whatever drugs Ruben had been using over the years that causes hearing loss. I was like,
Yep.
yeah, maybe there's something there. And then you find out why.
Mm-hmm.
It's like,
Because he's afraid that, this change in his life is going to put him back into that. Because he asked, have you been thinking about using since you started having these hearing issues? Doesn't want him to go down that path.
I had to say the most powerful scene in the movie, in my opinion, is when Ruben sits down with Joe and takes the headband off, showing the cochlears. Very powerful scene.
Yeah.
Because Joe's reaction is not positive.
Yeah, you can literally see the disappointment.
Yeah.
And once you by this point in the movie, you can see and understand exactly where Joe's coming from. It's like, look, our goal here is to show people that they can live a normal life without hearing. You're counterproductive to it, and when Joe kicked Ruben out, that's completely justifiable. I get it.
He had to.
Yeah,
You could tell that it hurt him to do it, but he had to.
Yeah. It was, it was almost like a parent. You're disappointed in your child. You still love them.
Consequences are what they are.
Yeah, but you've got to go. You are.
Yeah, he says there's so many other people here that I'm accountable to. It's not just about you. I've got to think about all the other people here.
Yeah, basically he's telling Ruben, you were selfish. We was trying to show you the big picture, but you don't want to listen. We were trying to show these people that they can live a normal life even without having hearing, and you're an example of, oh no, I can't survive without my hearing. I can't make it without my hearing. I have
To
by
fix
any
this
means
somehow.
possible. I'm getting my hearing back.
Mm-hmm.
You have to go.
Yeah, man, I felt bad for him for pretty much selling every possession he had in order to get that surgery too. Like, just
I want to know what happened at the end. Did he,
right.
what
They
path
leave
did
it
he
open.
choose? I want to know. I kind of like when I thought about it after the movie. I was like, I hope he just takes a cochlear implant, sets them to the side, and goes back to Joe and says, "Hey, okay, I'm in. I understand now. I made a mistake. I'm in." And then on the other hand, I don't know. I mean, what does he
Yeah.
do? He's broke. He's deaf now. What's he gonna do? And obviously, he and Joe are going different directions. She got her life pulled back together. And her father
Lou,
uh,
yeah.
kind of. Yeah, Lou. That's what I
Lou.
meant. Sorry. Kind of filled their relationship back in,
Yeah.
and she was doing really good. And obviously. And it kind of hurt me emotionally to know that she was not going back with him to that lifestyle.
I thought that was a kind of poignant scene. Basically, the two of them. Ruben's saying like, "We got to get back on the road. We got to start touring again," and then he can kind of tell from her reaction
Yeah, that's not.
that's all over. That ship has sailed, and
Yeah.
he's not going to be able to get her back. But he kind of takes the high road and says, "It's okay. Like you don't have to
Mm-hmm.
feel bad. That, for me that I'm going to be okay. I'm going to move on." And
Yeah, it wasn't one of those situations where she didn't want to go back touring with him because he was deaf. It was one of those situations where life just happened. He went off and he did his thing. She went off with and did her own thing, and life that was just the way the cards fell. It wasn't because of the situation of he's deaf. It was like, I don't, she doesn't want to perform with him anymore. It's just life happened, and that's
Mhm.
that.
Yeah.
And I would like to think at the end when he takes the cochlears out, that's kind of the aha moment. Just the way he reacted in that last 2 seconds before it goes to black, I think it's when it finally clicks with him of, I know what Joe means now.
Yeah.
I don't.
And that's
I can have life without
right.
hearing.
And remember, Joe asked him while you were sitting in that room, "Were you ever still?"
Yeah.
Trying to get him to understand that it's okay to be still.
Yeah, and I considered that part of Joe's kind of military background of,
Yeah.
let me break you down before I can rebuild you. We'll put you in a room and you can sit.
Yeah.
And if you're not sitting, you're right. And if you're not right, you're sitting. It's kind of, let me break you down. Let me get all these distractions and you get the frustrations out of your system. And once you get to that point, then we can actually start the learning process. But at this point, you're bucking everything. And one thing I never even gave it a thought of was when Ruben was out there working on the outbuilding. And Joe comes up to him, "What are you doing?"
Yeah.
And in a million years, I never would have given that a thought. But then when Joe says, "No, you're going to a room. This is the only job you have," it's like, I get it now, because
don't try
Ruben
to
is
distract yourself with
exactly.
little side jobs.
Exactly.
When you need to work on you first.
Exactly. Don't be doing these little things to distract yourself. You're here for one thing and one thing only, and we're going to fix
Learn
that.
how to be deaf. Yeah.
Exactly.
He writes it on the board. The other people in the community, they have little chores and stuff that they do. He said, but then he writes Ruben and learn how to
Learn.
be deaf. That is your only job.
Yeah. Isn't that crazy to think that, you don't have to contribute to the chores, you don't have to do anything but just learn to be deaf.
Yeah. And it's one of those things that it's a very simple but yet a very hard thing to understand.
Mhm.
It's like, you're deaf. Yeah. It's not something hard to learn. You're deaf. That's it. No, it's way deeper than that. It's more than just not hearing. It's like an onion. There's more layers involved than just the outside.
Yeah.
Yeah, I found myself feeling bad for Ruben many times. It's just like, I don't know, he couldn't quite get it, and just a lot of difficulty he was having with accepting and everything. It was Definitely a sad story in some ways.
And I think
with
it's
him.
hard though because he's not. I mean, he's a drummer in a punk band, an addict. So I don't think he has the background to kind of understand and make those type of choices. Because to make those kind of choices, you have to have some sort of experience that's going to let you have that knowledge base. If that makes sense.
Well, and you can tell from the beginning that he's trying to take almost the instant gratification route.
Oh yeah.
Of when the doctor sits down and says, here's your options. You can either stop damaging what little hearing you have left, or get these implants that cost $40,000 to $80,000. And Ruben's just right out of the barrel of, let's get Cochlears, let's get this done today. It's like, you don't understand, he's just trying to get the quickest path out, and
How do we? Yeah.
and everybody's all along saying, look, this isn't a scrape or a cut. This is something way more serious. This is a long-term issue. You need to take charge of this situation now, or you're only delaying your progress.
Yeah, the doctor has to like spell it out. The hearing you once had that's now gone will never come back. Like,
Yeah.
Don't have any illusion. That is gone.
Yeah.
Period. You'll never get that level of hearing back.
Exactly. But yet he's determined. He's hard-headed. And honestly, when I was watching it, I kind of did a little self-check.
Mm-hmm.
Sitting going, okay, yes, I use hearing in my job, but biggest majority of my job is with my hands and visual. If something happened, heaven forbid something happened one day where I lose my ability to use my hands or I can see.
Yeah. Then what do you do?
Yeah.
What's your next path?
Exactly. Sitting down in front of the computer and diagnosing it, getting something fixed within a few minutes is out the window. Now I have to rely on more tools.
Yep.
And I'm not saying that it's not doable, because whenever I was in high school, when I was taking IT courses down at our local technical center, we had a boy who was blind, and he wanted to learn computer repair. And it's like, that's not possible. It's like, and that's just mind-boggling. But again, working with him, it's completely doable. It's completely possible. And this was back in 2004. So, it's only progressed since then, because there was a program, literally, when he would set up a computer, he use his eyes, he would, you would help him. He would say, okay, do this, 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 and this. Then once you got the computer up and going, you loaded his program. That was, at the time, it was called JAWS, and it would literally read everything on the screen. Once you loaded that was it. He was done with you, because he was able to take over from there, because he'd been used to doing it this way for so long that everything's on the screen direct to him. So he doesn't. And what really messed with you was when you'd see him working on something, he didn't have a monitor. And you're going, well, how can you do it without a monitor? Well, he can't see, so there's no point. So you're going, what's the point of him having a monitor?
You
but
don't
yet,
think of that. There's like a whole industry of people out there that are making technologies that are allowing more and more, like every year, more and more people to do things that 40, 50 years ago, no way. No possible way.
And he actually went on to a state competition and won like first or second in the state, being blind. And it was in a skills competition. It wasn't, it was just in IT skills or something like that. And it was just like, just completely mind-boggling of what can be done nowadays, that even if you are hit with such an obstacle, that you can hurdle it and achieve your goal. Yeah, it'll slow you down. There will be stumbles along the way, but you can still achieve the same goal.
Yeah, and that's definitely, the movie showed that Ruben had potential to do some other things, but in terms of actually being a heavy metal drummer, that ship had sailed. There's no way he could do that anymore. It didn't seem like.
Right.
But maybe he could do his drumming in a class. He could do different things, but
Yeah,
he'd have to pick something else. He wasn't going to be able to go back into being on the road in a band at that point.
yeah. And honestly, I don't know if you'd really want to put yourself into that situation anyway.
Mhm.
That's all you'd known. And I
Right.
think that was his problem. That's all he'd known.
Right. And that I get that.
Because I see what you're saying. Would you really want to put yourself there? But I mean, that's all he knew.
You're right.
He was so desperate to get back to that. Huh. Interesting. Okay. Did we miss any facts that caught your all's attention? I mean, I was amazed it was 4 weeks of shooting. It's obviously low budget. I mean, they squeezed a ton into 4 weeks. Now, here's one thing I will say. The dog made an appearance in the first scene at the deaf community. Never saw it again. What happened to the dog?
Oh, that little, the one he's
Yeah,
carrying in
he
around.
said the dog let me
Oh.
know you were here, and then you never see the
yeah.
dog again.
Yeah, that's true. And it won an Oscar for Best Sound.
I believe that they did such a good job.
Yes.
The in the mouth microphone, so that you could hear kind of his jaw working, and the other one. So it was pretty neat.
And they immersed you into. You got to see both sides of the coin. You got to hear what like at the pharmacy. You got to hear what you would actually hear if you stand a couple aisles over from Ruben and the pharmacist. But yet at the same time, they flipped a switch and you was able to not hear what Ruben wasn't able to hear.
Yeah, they did a lot of that switching back and forth. And the guy we've been talking of, Joe, played by Paul Raci,
Mm-hmm.
he was nominated for Best Performance by an Actor in a Supporting Role Oscar nomination.
Yeah, I believe that.
Yeah.
All right, really good movie. I mean,
I
comparatively, Justin, you did a really good job.
I had a little bit of issue with some of the pacing of it. To me, maybe that could be a mood that maybe a different day I'd be in more mood for something like that. But
Yeah,
a little bit slow and a little bit of a bummer in some ways. I'd hesitate to recommend it to someone else.
really.
Really?
Just depending if someone is more into more fast-paced, entertaining movies. I didn't find it super
Well, I got to be honest with
entertaining,
you.
but it's a thinker. I guess,
Yeah,
is what
and
I'd say.
I'm curious to see Joe's rating because there wasn't any explosions at all.
I know. I thought,
He got mad and tore some stuff up in his motorhome at one
Yeah.
point, but otherwise,
Yeah.
pretty sedate movie.
Well, there was no car chases or car
No
wrecks.
car chases, no car wrecks, no big action, no explosions. Yeah. So, okay. The rating system. Let's break
Yeah.
this baby up.
Hmm.
So, small, medium, large.
Mop bucket.
Mop bucket.
My gut when the went to credits, it went to black at the end was medium. That was my gut. Inching towards large, but I don't think I can quite get there.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you. Mine's overflown medium.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not quite, a stellar large, but it's not bad.
Right.
Would I recommend
Really?
it to someone else? I'd be like, yeah, pretty decent watch, nothing outstanding. Yeah, I think you'd have. This is
Uh-huh.
like a lazy, nothing else is catching your attention. Go ahead and watch,
Yeah.
and it'd be good.
I could see how the critics would go crazy for it. It definitely has a little bit of a artsy pace to it and feel.
Yeah.
And tackling a subject that you don't see in
Yes,
a whole lot.
very uncommon subject to tackle.
But if you're
Well
looking
done,
for
though.
a fun movie to watch. Definitely not a fun movie. I don't.
Yeah,
think.
yeah.
But
think
some good acting and
looking for a
some
solid movie
great
to watch.
sound design as
Yeah,
well.
that's why I see it as solid. Joe, what
Okay.
are you seeing?
Okay, guys, better won't brace yourself on this one.
Oh, come on now.
I'm completely out of agreement with both of you.
Okay.
I'm going large.
All
By
right.
golly.
Yeah. Okay.
So tell us why.
Okay. So the movie started out when we started seeing the very beginning. It was a little, the first couple minutes a little slow paced, and I was excited going in when Justin dropped it last week. I told Justin then I was like, okay, I'm excited about this one.
Yeah.
So I had high intentions on this one, and there was a couple slow parts, but nothing too crazy.
Mhm.
The rest of it was able to keep you in depth to overshadow those couple minutes here and there that kind of strung you along. Honestly, guys, this one made you think.
Yeah.
It was one of those where, yeah, you was entertained, but they did it in such a way that it was kind of educational and entertaining at the same time, because not only did you watch a deaf person face these new challenges that he's literally broadsided with, but you got to experience it with him, where Ruben's literally standing in a pharmacy and he can't hear, and you're experiencing that with him. You can't hear either.
Yeah.
And then just the powerful scene of Joe and Ruben sitting in a kitchen table, and Ruben's, in a roundabout way walking in there with his chest puffed out, and, hey, look at me, and just that look of disappointment at Joe before he even said anything just spoke volumes.
Yeah.
I mean, that really hit hard. Of you just completely went against everything we stand for.
Yeah,
You don't. It's obvious you don't get it. You've never gotten it.
Yeah.
And all you've done is two things. One, you're wasting our time,
Yeah.
and two, you're a bad example to the community,
Yeah.
saying, I can't survive without my hearing.
Yeah, he faked his way through.
Yeah. And then that very last clip at the end, where he takes them off, and then he almost has that clarity of, I don't have to have these to survive. It very big roller coaster ride all the way through.
Mm-hmm.
So it's
A lot of emotions in this one.
Yes.
I think it does do a good job of making you feel some of the frustration and sadness, a little bit of what he was going through. I was feeling for him, definitely.
Oh yeah, the part where he turns around, he says, "I'm deaf. I can't hear you."
Mm-hmm.
You could tell his frustrations had just oozed out of him.
Yeah.
And I thought that was something. And then he had a tattoo on his chest. You guys notice that, "Please kill me."
Yes.
At what point in your life do you have to get that tattoo?
Yeah.
Right.
So the story's written literally on him and through his actions. Of his life being rough.
And in the diner, when they're sitting there and the gentleman calls and she goes, "He wants to talk to you. He can't hear you, right?" And he just sits the phone down and starts basically rambling.
Yeah, because there's no point. He's fed up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that.
And it's just like,
that was a good scene.
You can. That's when you start to see his frustrations. Like, this guy wants to talk to him, but I can't hear him. So here you go, pal. Here's what you get.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm with Dave. I'm overflowing medium as well. I'm definitely right there on the cusp. I think we're all in the same ballpark.
Yeah,
sure.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we're not, one extreme to the other, but
Yeah.
I'm just surprised that you guys didn't go large.
It's just,
And here's my thoughts. I gave it a large, and just based off of my rating, I figured you guys would have went large as well, or mop bucket. Because usually if I think it's good, you guys think it's great. So I'm shocked.
yeah, it's weird. You're right. I kind of agree with you. We reversed roles here on this think
Yes.
piece because I don't know. I think I would have to recommend this to the right person. That's why I hesitate.
Okay.
Just because I think it's a movie that's only for the right crowd,
And
if that makes sense.
when I'm coming from the standpoint, I'm not that. I know what you're talking about. That right?
Yeah,
crowd.
like I would not recommend this movie to you.
Right. That's why I'm giving it a large.
Yeah.
Is because from my standpoint, this movie, after seeing it, normally wouldn't hit my radar.
Yeah.
But after seeing it, it's like, oh, this is wonderful.
That's what I mean. I'm totally impressed that you got a 4, a mop bucket, or not a mop bucket, a large out of this deal.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm just as
Same.
shocked as you are as how well the movie was. Because, like I said, I wouldn't have
Did
recommended
Cena watch it
myself.
with you?
Yes.
What did she think?
She fell asleep.
See, that's kind of what I thought where you would be. You'd be like, not enough movement, action. It's kind of a slow pace.
But yeah, I surprised myself as I was entertained because, like I said, when Justin told me that, I remember seeing it advertised on Amazon. It's like, okay, that looks like a good movie. And then once I sit down, I had high expectations. And then when it started slowing down, I was like, here we go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then it picked right back up and kept going. I was like, okay, this is. I would personally, I would rank it like second under Peanut Butter Falcon.
No way.
Yes, as far as one of those, not your typical, well, for my taste, what a typical movie I would watch.
Yeah.
But yet just fully entertained and and learn something out of it.
Huh. Nice.
Because that's when I watched it. I was like, okay, it's a different story than Peanut Butter Falcon, but there's
Peanut Butter Falcon was funny though.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what this was missing for me, which I
Yeah, it
wish
didn't
I
have any
would've-
comedy.
Wish I would have had a little bit more, something to bring you up a little bit, because I
Yeah.
was struggling a little bit with.
but just
Yeah.
the struggles of having to deal with a situation that's not your normal. For example, in Peanut Butter Falcon, the gentleman had Down syndrome, so
Yeah.
he was trying to survive and try to live a normal, similar situation, trying to live a normal life, but yet you have Down syndrome, so they're trying to pigeonhole you in here.
Yeah.
Reuben has hearing loss, just lost his hearing, and has pigeonholed himself into, I can't do anything, I'm deaf, I have to get my hearing back, and yet Joe's sitting there going, listen,
Yeah.
you can have a normal life if you just listen to me. Stop fighting
Yep.
stop fighting me. I can show you that you can get back to normal.
You know, there are a couple of things that I thought about as I was sitting here. We're talking about the reviews. One, I was pretty impressed with the attitude of the younger guy that turned on the voice to text for him.
Yeah.
That whole always like, really? Do I have to do this right now, dude? I'm on my cigarette break. That part, and then when Reuben and and Lou split, like when she got in the taxi,
Yes.
and you could tell he was desperate for that not to happen, but he knew he couldn't do anything about it.
Right.
Man, what poignant scenes for me.
Yeah, and because right there is when Reuben said he just wanted to put a gun in his mouth.
Yeah.
And that's just like you sitting there watching this and going, yeah, it's good for him to go there,
Yeah.
but yet Lou's the only thing is keeping him stable at this
Yeah.
point. So
Does he have the mental strength to
is
adapt?
yeah. So you're kind of in that rough spot going, okay, should Lou go take him there?
Yep. And make sure he gets there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the crazy part.
Or should, just for both their benefits, just go ahead and get in that cab and leave? It's a very hard struggle right there, just that little...
I thought she did a great job, too, of just portraying being just scared ridiculously beyond belief.
Yes.
Her eyes are big the whole time, and she's just like, I don't know. We got to do, you have to do this. This is just where we're at. And then she makes the decisioning, done and done.
Yeah.
She does the right thing, because she knows him better than anyone. She can tell
Yeah.
he's possibly going to go down a really dark road if we don't get him into this
Mhm.
community, like rehab type center.
Yeah, because he's already in a pretty dark place the way it is, and it can't get any better from there if he doesn't do something now.
It's funny, though. Did you guys notice his routine at the beginning? He gets
Yeah.
up, he makes a healthy shake. He tells her, I know you don't like this because it's healthy, but, here you go.
Doing his exercise.
Does his
at 5 in the
exercise.
morning.
Yep, gets
And
coffee.
The rest of the movie, that goes all out the window, it seems
Yeah,
like.
he kind of gets a donut and coffee
Yeah.
to write with.
And
It's
the-
a
the
challenging
stories
movie. That's how I felt about it. But I have to tip my hat to him a little bit for not giving in to the temptation to try to put some real positive spin or anything on it,
Mhm.
but just tell us.
Yeah, there wasn't a
honestly and not
golden rainbow at the end of this
mad.
deal.
Yeah, nope.
No.
So
All right.
kudos to him for not falling into that formula and just
Yeah, they
giving you the warts and all of this whole thing, the whole story.
Yeah, they gave you. Again, I'm like your dad. I cannot figure out how this is not a biopic, because it gives you the good, bad, and the ugly,
Mhm.
and at the end you don't get this little warm, heartwarming feeling, this little warm fuzzy to leave on. It's like he gets it, and that's the end of the movie. There's no circle back around that he gets the girl back and he gets his life back. It's like
Because
he
the teacher that we talked about, she was Miss Deaf America.
yeah.
I thought maybe there's going to be some thing where
He falls for her.
falls for
or-
the didn't go that way at all. Though.
No, you don't get that.
Sometimes that happens. The main character loses the one girl, and then
Oh, yeah.
just another.
A fill-in replacement
Yeah.
pops up.
Yeah, to get you to the end of the movie. And it's like at the end of the movie, it's like, nope.
It had nothing to do with it. Yep. She
Yep.
was just a teacher. That's
Yeah,
all.
yeah, nothing more, nothing
Nothing
less.
going on.
Yeah, it was a very big turn, unexpected turn at the end, and very well done.
Yep. There it is. Sound of Metal.
Yeah. Interesting.
And
Okay.
Dave, you've had some time to think about your next pick. You
Yeah.
got a short list for us?
I don't know. What do you got? The hard part, you keep picking these stunners.
Yeah, I have to say, when Justin throws these curveballs, I get a little nervous. But yet,
Well,
overall,
I just mean-
he has done very well. So
It's kind of
it's to the point where I will want to try that, but
Yep.
I know with
Also-
my luck, it will blow up in my
Yeah.
face.
well, Howard the Duck, yeah.
No, that was on purpose.
I just, I mean, man, you throw out a dark, broody film like this that's good. How do I follow that up? So, do we want to? My usual MO. I'll give you some choices. Do you want something upbeat? Do you want to follow in this pattern of a think piece? You know, what are you thinking? What do you guys feel
I'm
like?
leaning towards not thinking as much on the next one, and feeling a little better at the end.
Yeah, a little upbeat story then.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Justin wants that little heartwarming one that's at the end where they get the dog back and all that.
Yeah. He wants the rainbow at the end.
Yeah.
Music starts playing, and
Do-do-do-do-do-do. Yeah. Okay. Because I mean, the hard part is I don't generally like movies like that necessarily.
Are you looking at the fan?
No, I'm
or
looking at
your
my
own
list. I
Okay.
kind of made my own list.
Uh-huh.
So I'm thinking. Yeah, I'm thinking like 16 Candles, kind of going back to a John Hughes film. You know, or we could do something Snatch. Snatch is kind of like an action-packed,
With some
tons
humor.
of twists and turns and humor, and you know.
Well, let me see what I can find.
Yeah,
here.
see which one you can find. 16 Candles or Snatch. Or we could go Burt Reynolds with Stroker Ace and get one that probably nobody even knows. Have you guys even heard of Stroker Ace?
Yes, never
Okay.
watched it.
Yeah, I
Yes,
mean, it's an oldie. It's got a, you know,
Okay, 16 Candles is a no-go.
Okay.
What was the Snatch?
Snatch.
Okay.
Brad Pitt and Jason Statham.
Okay, Snatch is on Tubi again.
Tubi? Okay.
Yeah.
And Amazon.
I think you have to pay for it on Amazon. Let me look here. Yeah, but it's on Tubi.
All right. Snatch it is.
Well, what was the other one?
Stroker Ace.
Stroker Ace.
Stroker Ace. Born to Race. It's a
Uh,
NASCAR.
Okay, yeah, Stroker Ace is out. So let me double check here. Let me check one place here.
I have seen Snatch, but it's been many, many years. So
Yeah, Snatch is good.
And for
That Guy
anybody
Ritchie.
that's wondering why I keep saying let me look, I try to find it where we can stream it online, like Netflix or Amazon Prime, places that you don't have to actually buy the rental. So if anybody wants to watch along with us,
Yeah.
you don't-
Audience participation.
yeah, you don't have to go buy it or pay to rent it if you already have like Netflix or something like that.
And I got a big list of stuff, but man, I don't know. Depends on what I'm feeling.
Okay, so
Mhm.
Stroker Ace is a no go.
Okay. So Snatch it is.
Yes, so Snatch. And you watched you used Tubi the other day, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yep.
All right, good deal.
Okay. Well, been there, watched that. This is the crew, Justin, Joe, and myself. So walk us out of here, Joe. Or
All right.
Justin, whichever one of you wants to.
you go ahead, Joe.
All right. So for all of our news and reviews, be sure to visit our website at beentherewatchthat.com. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube at BTWT Pod, or subscribe to the podcast, Been There, Watch That, all hosted by Anchor.fm.
Nice. Okay. Well, for Justin, Joe, and myself, we had a nice review of Sound of Metal, Justin's pick, which totally surprised me and didn't stink. No, I'm joking. No, good pick. Good week of movie there, and then we'll be back next week. So keep up with us, and go to Tubi, start your free account, watch Snatch with us, and you can follow along with our review. So, Jason Statham, Brad Pitt. I don't know. I'm sure there's some other hot, decent actors in there. Anyway, okay. We'll be back next week, so thanks for tuning in. Been there, watch that. Everybody enjoy their week, and, enjoy some good movie reviews.